Maybe all it takes is an unboxing to get me motivated again. Yeah, I want to talk about stuff. I want to talk about some recent games and kind of what I learned about players, what I learned about the kind of style of the games I run. But I've been unmotivated for a variety of reasons. But I did get a package today, and let's open it, and maybe this will bring back some excitement for gaming and the game and podcasting. It is a 11 by 17 or so package from Lightning Source in Tennessee. Did you know that they were in Laverne, Tennessee? I think it's Laverne. It's Lavergne, Lavergne. So here we go. Anvil is at the ready. We open and pull, and hopefully you don't mess it up. Kind of one of those, like you cut the tape and then it's an easy open box on the other side. What the hell's in here? It's thinner than I thought, but it's still pretty cool. It is adding to my collection of post-apocalyptic mayhem. It is a adventure compendium for the after. It's called Tales from the Trail. So what I like and I think is cool about the after, and I'd like to get to the table, is it has that kind of Western frontier vibe, and I kind of like that. Um, they have a pretty good history of how the world collapsed. It's alien invasion, kind of is the overarching theme. I've talked about it in a previous podcast, but this particular, it's Savage Worlds, Jade Monkey Studios, the development team, the artwork and concept, John Gibbons, and the author is Ade Smith, and Sean Noakes, layout, Craig Williams, publisher, Mike Lafferty. And it's got four adventures for different levels for the after. Oh wow, the centerfold is a really cool set of maps. They're really nice. I think I have the PDF so I can use it on the like Roll20 or whatever. But it looks pretty cool. The art is really nice, actually. Um, I feel like their last product was black and white. This is like color art. I guess maybe they did really well. So I think, and it looks like they have like a little bestiary at the end of the book. It's called Zachariah's Field Guide. So it's not super big. Clocks in at like 60 or so, 60 pages, 61, 62 pages. But looks pretty intense for adventures. That's not bad, not bad at all. And looks pretty cool. Again, for novice uh, characters and above. There's some for novice. There's some I noticed in the PDF for more advanced veterans. So we'll see. It looks really cool. So that is the after, and yeah, cool stuff. The unboxing.
Carl Rodriguez is the GMologist, GM extraordinaire, the GMologist.
Okay, so what happened? Well, I wanted to do something cool for a game, and it involved adventures or flying in and around town. And I, you'll hear some comment later on that the players weren't ready for it. They kind of balked at it, and one player even remarked, "We're playing D&D, man, not papers and paychecks." So what does that mean? I mean, I thought it would be kind of cool to just, instead of doing a dungeon crawl after dungeon crawl, you get some traction in the town, and actually the adventure path we're running, the Abomination Vaults, it kind of, there's a lot of adventure hooks within the town. And even though they start in medias res, that's the idea. So you start at the gate at the front and the gate of the ruined keep. You're supposed to go back and forth into town and explore things. And maybe I didn't introduce that concept well. It's kind of, the game I think has suffered from it being, we started it and then we stopped it for like a month because of the holidays and trying to get back into it. Well, it was rough start, let's say. I think it ended well, and we did make a decision to play weekly now. But are the player characters in general interested in a city adventure? Now let's contrast that with T2K, which I'll also talk about. It's been a while. We played last Tuesday. The what date was that? That date last Tuesday was the fourth, and I'll talk about that kind of city adventure. And it's we got a new player, which was exciting. We had some action and had to resolve a couple little action bits. But right, one of the players is really interested in developing the relationship with the town and what goes on in town, and it's hard to tell if the other players are interested or not. So what is going on? Do we not like urban adventures? Are urban adventures too mundane and boring? Who cares about where your papers and your paychecks go and the day to day? I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting.
Hey, Carl, Jason here. Sorry I missed a couple recent things with you. My son gave me a stomach bug, and I am feeling a little bit better now. As far as the Victorian style game Kevin ran for you guys, sounds like a lot of fun. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I'm glad it's going to keep going since players want to keep playing that. I'm sorry I missed Chase, the second part Chase Traveler game. It sounds like that was really neat as well. As far as the sound you thought were balloons in the background, I know that's a pretty foreign sound to you in Texas. That was snow. That was me walking on snow after a heavy snowfall. So that's what you heard there. Anyhow, I look forward to talking to you and gaming with you in the future. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I did not realize that that was the sound in the background was walking through snow. We really don't have snow here down in South Texas, although last year was an exception, and you might have heard about Snowmageddon. And while we did not lose power, we have solar panels, so it kind of backs up our system in a way. We have like batteries, but and we lost water for like a day. My parents, who are older, they lost power for like a week, and it was just such a shit show between SAWS and CPS on not having the correct infrastructure. And it turns out, of course, uh, they the government of Texas could have improved the infrastructure and given some money that was due to be released to these companies to improve the infrastructure to weatherproof it, but they didn't. In fact, they instead they had like parties for their cronies and buddies. But that is very typical here in Texas. Unfortunately, there is the graft and the grift, and that old Roman tradition of cronyism it rears its ugly head now and then to the detriment of people, of course. But that is cool that that was the snow crunching. I guess it's been a while since we had ever that much snow that we could, or that was packed so tight that you could crunch on it. But pretty cool. I hope you had your wellies on while you were crunching through the snow.
Hello, Mr. JM. This is Sam, and I'm calling from a desert road. Actually, I don't think it's a desert road because it's glowing in the forest over there. I just wanted to admit that I shot a guy's head off, and he went to goo all over the ground. I don't know what that was, but I think I'm going to have to call the Pinkertons for a cleanup crew. Not 100% certain on that. But I was also told that you'll give out a Benny, whatever that is, so maybe I don't have to blow someone's head up next time, or mine doesn't get blown up. I don't know. I'll have to check with Jake and Hex, because they might need some of those too. Anyways, I need to go. Gotta find a moon rock, or something like that. Not certain.
Well, that was Amy's other persona, Sam, the agent from our Deadlands game. We were not able to play our Deadlands game, and I think I will get to that in my next podcast. But I did want to have Amy call in, and she wanted to make sure that she was published in the audio wave so she could get her Benny, which I did award her in the solo game we played since we did not play our Deadlands game. and that turned out pretty cool. Actually, we ran a um, a session of the Savage Worlds product, Deadlands Lost Colony, which takes place in the far future of the Deadlands verse, far future, farther than the Deadlands noir. It is like sci-fi. They go through this wormhole. They get to this planet called Banshee, and get stuck there. So it's like that space cowboy western vibe. There's an alien species that is there on the planet Banshee that they go to. It's a pretty fun little compact game, and Amy had gotten me the box set for Christmas, so I'll talk about the adventure we ran, which was one of the adventures in the box set that she got me. But yeah, so that's Amy as Sam, and hopefully we'll bring back that Deadlands game the next week or two. The people that usually come over for our Sunday dinner were sick, so we skipped that with good reason, likely, and we'll try to pick it up this this coming up weekend, I think.
Carl, it's Evil Jeff. Just listened to your When Villains Gets Away podcast, and I went through and listened to your report on the GURPS game, the Traveler universe there. I wanted to hear your take on it as a new character coming into a situation where you already have a party already established. It was kind of curious to me to see how that was going to play out. I knew everybody was going to want to be my friend. That was the plan all along. Just the way I had it set up wasn't quite the way that it went down. But I guess everybody wants to be my friend to help them make sure they don't stay in jail. But, we'll see how it works out. It was great playing with you, and I look forward to the next time Che has a break. Later.
And that was Evil Jeff. I think Jeff is the first time you called into the show. Thank you for that. And he's referring to the Traveler game that we played, the Serene Dawn, the Voyage of the Serene Dawn, which hasn't gotten out of port yet. It is run by Shea Webster using GURPS Traveler, or the GURPS rule set adapted for Traveler. Like I've said, there was a GURPS Traveler products created during the third edition incarnation of GURPS, and it's pretty easy to adapt it, for this game. Traveler works really well for a lot of different games, and it does work well for Traveler. So, and it was cool to kind of have you on board, Jeff. So good to play with you, and I guess we'll talk to you again soon when we have a chance to play. I wanted to give Evil Jeff a song or a song piece because I got some for other people here. But yeah, that's my just some stuff I found on the site Looperman, which has a lot of different artists who put down tracks, and you can use them, um, download them, and use them for other things, which is a pretty neat service. You have to kind of subscribe to it. So yeah, pretty cool. Maybe I'll add words to it. I don't know. But Evil Jeff, I got to think of a song for you. I was actually thinking like some King Diamond stuff. There's a song called Evil, but my King Diamond voice is not so good. And then there's also Metallica's Am I Evil? And I could change the lyrics about and say, Am I evil? Yes, I am. Am I evil? Jeff, I am. Or something like that. I don't know. I'll think about it. What do you think? Thanks for the call, Jeff.
Hey Carl, Jason here. Just wanted to call. Sorry I had to drop out of the game abruptly last night, but these things happen. As far as the game, though, we're talking about the Pathfinder 2 game. So I think the issue wasn't that we minded doing things in town. I think the problem was it was a very abrupt open up the session. what are your non-adventuring professions? Make a die roll. Make a die roll. And we had no. You were like steamrolling us through it. And I know hindsight's 2020, and it's easy to say now. If we had designed the characters that way from the start, we would have put some points into some non-adventuring profession kind of things. Um, and I think after a couple minutes, after that abrupt sea change, because it was a super big shift from what the campaign was, but at that point, we did start to get into it, and we were doing it. So I don't want you to be discouraged.
Ethan's message kind of is an intro to the topic ish of the show, and that is like what you do in town. And Jason is correct. Hindsight is 2020. So from my point of view, I was very excited that in reading a bit more about, we played like a couple, maybe 2, 3 sessions, and the adventure says, "Oh, start the player characters in medias res. They're at the doors to the keep, the ruined keep, with no context." And then uh, the players have gone in and out of town a couple times and have gone into forays into the keep a couple times, and that had prompted me to read more in depth, not just a cursory glance of what is it about the town. And what it is about the town is definitely connected to the history of this ruin, and there are ways in which there are adventure hooks. There are things you can do in town that can give hints about the ruin, etc. And I wanted to incorporate that, but what I should have done is maybe prepped a little better and prefaced that better for the players instead of just, as Jason felt, abruptly throw them into it. And I think I did that because I was very excited about the possibilities. You can befriend various people who own the different shops and places or are connected to the different manor houses and ruling families of the town, the history of the town, and various things you could learn about them. And there are mechanics for it, which is kind of cool in the downtime of a Pathfinder adventure game path. So yeah, I think we kind of stepped back and looked at it, and I kind of explained myself a little better. It worked out pretty well, I think. And in that uh, session, they did do a lot of investigating in town, and then they um, went back to the ruin. And instead of kind of pushing through the main door, they decided to do some exploratory reconnaissance around the edge or the outer buildings, and they found some interesting things. A lot of arrow slits and holes. This was a defensible position. This strange stained glass that was still intact that showed an apocalyptic scene of ghosts rising out of the ground and worshiping a star. And they found a moat house and a boathouse, and they started exploring the moat house, so like over a bridge, which wasn't trapped. The goblin in the hood had rolled so well that he could have set up like a quick release and make it into a trap himself. They explored the first room in this moat house across the bridge, and they saw a spooky creature. But it was interesting that in town they had done a reading with the elfin born tiefling Rin, and she had they had rolled so well, gotten a crit, that she had sort of a premonition and explained it to the dwarf Cromac that he would see this creature. So Cromac's like, "I know what you are. You're no haunt. You are a brownie." And they got to talking, and the brownie said, "Well, I want this shiny. It's around the bend. It's still in this building in the hexagonal room, and there's this mean doll that has it, and I want it. And if you give it to me, I'll give you some information." So they agreed to do that, and that's kind of where we stopped it. Jason, like you said, had to leave abruptly, and then we picked it up. So let's hear from Jason a bit more, and I'll kind of tell you what we picked up today.
I did have a fun time last night. We did some wrestling with Fantasy Grounds. I'll be nice. I won't include any video game or MMO references, but and that's part of the charm of this game is it is as close to an MMO as I'm going to play, is we fiddle with the video game aspects and spend as much time figuring out the program as we do playing the game. But that's not the point. The point is I had a good time, and the other point is that I think there is something toward to adventuring and searching through town and those interactions and building those relationships with the shopkeepers and all that. I just think it was I think you got the reaction you did because it was a little bit abrupt. There wasn't a discussion before the game. Hey, I want to try something different. Let's do this. It was kind of just like thrown at us. But as soon as we adjusted, I think we all had fun, and I'm glad that we played. I'm looking forward to the next session.
We were able to play that next session tonight. And here, in this case, we did spend a lot of time catching up with BJ Boyd of the Arcane Aliens, who we haven't seen nor heard from in like 6 weeks, it seems. He's very busy with family stuff during the holidays, as a lot of people are, and we haven't seen him in the games, or we've canceled some games because we were just very busy with Christmas and New Year's, and that's the way it is. So it's good to catch up with BJ. We kind of told him about the abruptness of the introduction of doing stuff in town. And BJ already had an idea of what he wanted to do in town. Maybe Jason had talked to him about it beforehand, or um, it was just part of his character concept. But he said he wanted to work in the library with this big library called the Dawnflower Library, Church of Serenre, but also shrines to Aristil, Gozre, and Caden Colleen. And yeah, so he wanted to work in the library, but also have tea or coffee with Rin and cultivate that relationship. So he had to make his diplomacy, and he is at the library, and he may be able to earn some income, residual income there at the library, and hang out with Rin as well. So he's cultivating two relationships in town. And so we did that. We kind of told them what had happened before, that they had found information on how to take care of the haunt. Potentially, they didn't tackle the haunt this time, though. They decided to do this sort of side quest for the brownie, and the brownie, whose name Tangletop, kind of said, "I want the shiny." Was really cool. As one of the players was able to talk to the brownie in Sylvan, in the language that they knew, sort of privately to the brownie, and Tangletop was impressed, and he got to roll a diplomacy, and Tangletop became very helpful. He still wanted the shiny, but he explained that it was like what it looked like, a silver rod with a bunch of gems on it. So the player said, "Yeah, we'll do this." So they kind of go in that direction. They find a storage room, and in the storage room, they find a key that's kind of been haphazardly thrown into a toolbox. They see a stairs down, and Dr. Eleazar, BJ Boyd's character, goes down the stairs, and he finds a corridor, looks both ways, says, "I don't," and then he hears someone sobbing, and it kind of ends abruptly, and he's like, "Oh, man, hopefully it's not another haunt. I'm out of here." So he runs back up the stairs, tells the players they'll explore it in a bit, maybe. He They then go through this door, and there's these four paintings, and the paintings show scenes, apocalyptic scenes. They show Belcora. They show her shooting the gauntlet, and all these ghosts appearing. It shows her attacking Absalom in flames, and then there's one painting that's been torn up and has a name under it. And then in Aklo, it says something in Aklo that coolly. I love languages, and it's really cool about Fantasy Grounds. Something cool is that you can choose the language and then type it out, and only people who on their character sheet have that language can understand it, which is kind of a neat feature. So actually, the writing in Aklo was next to the picture of Belcora, and it said, and under the plaque underneath read, "The Lady of the Light." And in Aklo it said, "I serve you still, you shall be avenged." The one that was torn to shreds was called "The Artist at Work." So they got maybe some lore if they pay attention. Then they opened the room, and they saw the shiny in this hexagonal room full of glass, like broken glass, everywhere. Someone did make a Die Hard John McClane reference. I gave them a hero point. That was very cool. And then this creature jumped up. It was this bird-like mechanical construct with a sharp beak, and it asked for the master. None of them could really answer, and it attacked. And the fight was initially pretty tough. I rolled a crit. It was able to cast a powerful spell that damaged both Goblin in the Hood, played by Jason Connerly, and then Cromac the Dwarf, who's played by someone who doesn't have a podcast and hasn't said you can tell me their name in public. So anyway, yeah, so they started beating a hasty retreat, and because they weren't damaging it, because it had gotten some temporary hit points from the successful spell cast onto Goblin that kind of drained him of blood, and then someone heard it, and they're like, "Oh, well, maybe we can let's regroup. Let's regroup." So they closed the doors, healed some. The creature started tearing through the door. There's a neat mechanic in Pathfinder 2 on how to break things, and it's pretty intuitive. So it broke through the door like very quickly, but they were ready for it. They attacked it, fought past it. Goblin tried this cool maneuver to try to smash it against the broken door, which didn't work. But freed him from the door and that obstacle, and then they proceeded to hack it down. A combination of Goblin's axe strikes and Cromac's Morning Star Smash, and magic support from Felbar and Dr. Eleazar, and it was destroyed. And I think they were pretty satisfied. It was a tough fight. It was a creature that was 2 levels above them, CR3 in old Pathfinder 1E 3.5 parlance, creature 3 in the new way of doing things. So it was a pretty fun combat. They found the shiny. They talked to Tangletop, who said, "Okay, I'll join you," and then they're going to explore further on. But it was a good session. Is again, a lot of it was spent catching up, but hey, that's part of it, right? So neat. And then now we will, talk about another game that deals with towns, and that is the T2K game, Twilight 2000, the 4th edition, run or created by Free League Publishing Design Company. And this is an ongoing game. I started back in July. The characters are a ragtag bunch of refugees having fled from the Battle of Kalitz, and then after 3 weeks or so, finding themselves in Krakow and investing or squatting on some property. And the players are my wife Amy plays Kasia, a Polish partisan, and we have Joe Salvatore playing Tops, ex-Navy SEAL. So I think he's a master sergeant, so pretty high up there. We have another couple players, one who's playing a ranger named Sergeant Grunts, and we have another friend of mine playing a German intelligence agent named Jonesy. No one knows his real name, though. We were joined by another friend of one of the players, and he is playing a Marine character, and that character is Staff Sergeant Steven Chernoff. And what's cool is I could set him up in Krakow. There's definitely an element of the Marines that were up doing operations up on the Vistula, having invaded with the German Third along the Baltic and moving their way down, and bad things happened to them too, and they've been scattered. He knows he has men out there. He only came with a handful of men into Krakow, but he had an old buddy who used to be a Marine Recon and is now working for one of the intelligence agencies, the DIA. So it's kind of a good hook with him, and that I hooked him up with the same guy that Tops had met, a guy named Gustav Kryonkowitz. So it was really good and easy to put him into the flow of the game. He and Tops go and having seen a column come in, go and talk to them. They see things are pretty active. And of course, this was about the same time that Kasia and Grunts and Jonesy had gone off and followed the police from the episode session before. So we do pick up with, after we introduced Chernov, I do pick up with Jonesy, and he was kind of in the museum having followed a policeman into the museum, and it seemed kind of strange and odd, and it looked like the policeman was working for somebody who weren't the police and doing this kind of clandestinely, but Jonesy was on to him. So Jonesy had opened this door, he opened it, and he heard like the sound of machines, and it smelled like stale sweat, people, and booze and cigars. So he tries to sneak in, and you can only stealth so much until at some point you trip. I think he had rolled like a critical failure, so he was heard. He hid as best he could near some lockers, and a man came to investigate the door and saw the open door and kind of turned around and thought he saw something in the shadows, so drew his pistol. And good thing for, I think, quick thinking on the player, he came up and tried to wrestle with him, disarm him. I think I want to say he got shot, but not so much. But he got the upper hand very quickly and I think wrestled the gun away or some. I don't know. It was a cool hand to hand combat whereby Jonesy had a gun in his hand and he capped the guy. And this player is just becoming notorious for shooting people in the head and neck. So he capped the guy. Um, the guy was like talking to him or yelling at him in Russian, but then Jonesy books it, hides. There's a sweep for him, but they cannot find him, and he eventually makes his way back to the others. But whoever those people were, they were kind of on alert, and maybe I don't know if they put two and two together, but people are suspicious in this time, this post-apocalyptic time, especially in a place like Krakow. So they yeah, the next day, the as promised, the police come and give an inspection. It goes really well. There's some characters who are very smooth tongued, I guess is the best way to describe it. And they didn't give anything away. They had hid the vehicles well enough that they really believed that this was a medical unit. And then the person said, "Well, let's go and talk to the big boss, the Rada, out at the castle," which is exactly what I think Amy's character Kasha wanted to have happen. So they all go in a little convoy, and they go down the street. And in the behind the screen, I roll for a random encounter, and it seems to be some sort of attack. And they have a prisoner, and they said they're going to turn this prisoner over. They had mentioned it the night before to those policemen that they had talked to. So loose lips sink ships. But I just felt logically there wasn't going to be an overwhelming force to rescue the marauder prisoner that they had, and the attempt was actually made to try to kill the prisoner so he wouldn't spill any beans that he might have already spilled. So there's an assassination attempt, but the players see it and they're onto it, and they kill the sniper on the roof with some good shots by Chernoff and Tops. And Jonesy kills one like a watcher in the street, again shooting him in the head. And they keep driving. They drive to the castle, having avoided an attempt to kill this marauder in the back. I don't think anyone got injured, but they all stayed together. And Kasha was in the lead vehicle with the police and said, drive fast. So they did, and they got out of there. There were some other police who were part of the escort, and they just kind of looked confused. I think the only weird thing that happened was that I believe the driver, in his haste to get out, I think it was the truck, they had a NPC driver, accidentally ran over one of the policemen who was out there on the street. But we'll see if that has consequences or not. But it was a good little firefight, and we're going to pick up in the court of the de facto ruler of Krakow, the next time we play. And that game, I know I'm going to butcher it, is the Dovodka Joseph Kutrzeba, Kutrzeba, Dowokta Joseph Kutrzeba. I cannot pronounce Polish. I'll have to get Amy to help with that. But they'll get to meet him. He is the Rada, and we'll see how that goes. Looking forward to it. But I guess I'm talking about this in the context of this particular show because, they're in town. They really want to do a lot of things in town. They're invested in town, not going out and adventuring. We'll see if they stay there. But like even Amy's character has a list that she generated for that character of things they want to do in town. And that includes things like starting a school, starting a hospital. So we'll see. I think it's very ambitious. depends on how they go and talk to these people. They have guns and martial folks in the group that might be tasked, hired to do certain things for the government of Krakow, and we'll see if they're compliant or not, and how this relationship goes. But right now, they're in the town. That's where they're going to call their home base for the time being, and we'll see how long it lasts and if they become rulers of Krakow or just are they passing through and maybe have to skip out of town very quickly. Who knows? These last segments are going to be, this last segment is going to be a couple things stimulated by calls from Joe Richter. And he's going to talk about this ongoing debate about Die Hard and Christmas movies, and we'll see how long we can extend this. Maybe we can extend it till Valentine's, this ongoing back and forth between Joe Richter and Jason Connerly. Maybe others may weigh in or not, but it's kind of fun. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It's about, let's let Dr. Love talk about it.
So call me Dr. Love. They call me Dr. Love. Calling Dr. Love. I am your doctor of love. Calling Dr. Love. Dude, I was totally going to drop it, but Jason had to bring it up again, man. Die Hard is absolutely a Christmas movie. It is about Christmas, not just set at Christmas. The entire soundtrack is Christmas music. More than that, though, it's a story of a man trying to reunite with his splintered family and bring them together over Christmas. Christmas is the focal point of that movie. Like, it's not just set at Christmas. I'm not sure what Jason was talking about with the whole Christian movie, Christmas movie thing. Like, A Christmas Story, arguably the best Christmas movie, isn't a Christian movie. It's a movie about Christmas. But yeah, I don't know. He was sort of right, though, about America being founded by Christian values. It was actually founded on Puritan values, which is just a small sect of Christianity and not overall Christian values. So I don't know. If he wants to be a Puritan, he better stop drinking. Peace out, dudes.
I don't know, Joe. I thought that the U.S. was founded by a bunch of Masons. And yeah, all those guys who are the founding fathers were part of some Masonic temple. And yet there is a lot of Christianity involved in that, but there's some strange and interesting rites. It'd be interesting to do a study on which founding fathers were part of that secret society. It seemed to be a big thing at the time, both in the Georgian and later Victorian era and into the Edwardian, that members of the quote unquote aristocracy, learned men, were part of these secret societies, right? Masonic temples or lodges or the order of something esoteric, something or other. The esoteric order of Dagon? I don't know. So, it's an ongoing debate. It'd be fun if you guys keep it up, like I said. So the last part of the show is going to be that Boar's Head thing. And we have calls from both Joe Richter and Daniel Norton of Bandits Keep. So thanks for the calls, guys, and we'll hear what you have to say and maybe respond.
Thank you, Carl, for explaining how that trap works, man. I'm not at all surprised that it comes from Tomb of Annihilation. I think that is just a really poorly designed adventure. I mean, it encourages players to act a certain way, and then it punishes them for acting in that way. That's bad game design. I also think that trap is a really shitty design, too, because it's whoever can see the head, not interacts with. So as soon as the party walks into the room and says, "We search the room," everyone has to make a will saving throw, a hard will save, like you pointed out. And then if they make it, they still have to make one each round if they can see it. And you only get a new save once you take damage. So everyone just lines up in a line, charmed, until they all get dead. Yeah, man. That's bad trap design. Anyway, dude, thank you again. Peace out.
Hey, Carl. Daniel from Bandits keep calling in about the trap So I guess I asked this question on Jason's podcast, but I'll ask it here as well. Like, it doesn't seem to say that other player characters can't help the player. So were they just all charmed, or they just didn't think of that? I suppose. So it seems to me like you could use player skill. That is player skill to me would have been grappling the charmed person and dragging them back. Um, and if that's the case, if that's feasible, and I think it would be based on what you read it at my table, then I don't think it's that mean-hearted. Of course, they could have all potentially been charmed, right? So then, then that would be bad. But yeah, and if it's the last trap and they've been through a place of traps, and I guess the other question I have is what level they were, because DC 16 seems high, but maybe not if they're really high level. So I'm curious.
Hey, Daniel, I'll answer your question first and then discuss maybe more. More nuances, of course, have come to light in talking to some of the players who participated in that. So they were 9th or 10th level, so it's a +4 proficiency bonus, even if you don't have a bonus for your wisdom. So I guess with a DC of 16, you need a 12 or better on a D20. So yeah, that's about a 60% chance that you will succeed, right? So, and then if you're so, I think the person who got caught was an intelligence based or charisma based spellcaster. So, like a cleric would be good, or a monk would be fine. And so the other characters, upon seeing the other tapestries, did not want to go through. I think no one failed a fear check at all. I think it was a lot lower DC, and I think you had a choice to reason through it with intelligence or wisdom or charisma. I don't know, but no one. I don't recall anyone running away in fear from the fear check. Just the others didn't want to go past it. The only thing that went past it was the slot that's in the module that can be controlled by a savvy character, and the slot went through. And from what a player told me is like the slot could have been ordered to pull the guy out, but the player was like, I don't know, do I want to do it? I don't recall that, but that's what a player said that it felt like. So maybe there's more to it than just the guy getting offed by a trap. Maybe there was like a player tension that was at the table that I didn't really know about. I mean, it's hard to judge too because we're playing this. We started playing this, and you know what? And maybe this suffered from like COVID fatigue because we were playing it live initially, and then shit happened March a couple years ago, and then we stopped for a little bit, then started playing it up again online, and it was dodgy and touch and go, and that might have been part of it. So yeah, but I think it's an interesting trap. I don't know if it's good or bad. I think the results are, that something is behind curtain number 3, something bad is going to be there because of all these escalating debauchery and destruction and mayhem that is shown on the tapestries. But some people, I guess, curiosity killed the cat, killed the character. That might have been what happened in that case. Well, anyway, I think I'm going to close this show out. And thanks for everyone for the calls. I got a lot of calls, not just from Jason Connerly of Nerds RPG Variety Cast and Joe Richter of Hindsightless, but my wife Amy called in character. I always love that. And then Evil Jeff called in, and podcast called Minions and Musings. And then finally we had Daniel Norton from Bandits Keep call in. So again, thank you everyone for the call-ins. It's a very enjoyable session to talk about and run. And yeah, I think the next session, or the next podcast that is going to be about solo play for some games that didn't make, but I decided to have a one-on-one session with the player that did show up, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, thank you TJ Drennan for the music, and the other music provided by Stein AA from Looperman, or created by Stein AA for public use. So yeah, so TJ, take us out with that awesome riff.